going to say brandy tableside because that's going to confuse people and they're thinking it's oak aged like a cognac. So it's just 100% apricot, and it's called creme de apricot because it has high residual sugar, and it's got a nice mouthfeel. So in this one we have lemon juice, whipped pineapple, falernum. So in the menu it says almond because there's almond in falernum, and then there's also orgeat in this, which is almond again. So 2 different types. Ginger and lime peels are steeped in the syrup with almond simple syrup, and then the other is almond and orange blossom. So this is an old dry rum cocktail that nobody knows. So it's supposed to be tropical, tart, fruity, and the mouthfeel especially is what I think is really unique on this one. Kind of tastes like a Slurpee.
Just to clarify, the rosé version is martini pour, the tequila version is not?
It's a standard cocktail.
Tequila?
Yes, it's a super high-end tequila. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we want people who enjoy tequila to, we sell so many $14 cocktails, the Blood Orange Paloma and the Kick and Cucumber. We want to start to stratify every single category, including agave. So, tequila, mezcal, sotol, there are $100 options on our menu. We want people to think like an old-fashioned, that it's a little more reasonable and normal to have a $25 tequila old-fashioned because they're so easy, they're so quick, you get to taste the spirit, and it's a really efficient use of product.
So no matter what the alcohol base, are they going to come in looking the same?
No, so that's the rosé, yeah, and that's how you'll...
Come in
But that one's frothy, tropical, and pit fruit, same as, because it kind of says in here tequila version.
Yeah, they're essentially what you're getting in difference in flavor, that's naturally going to be more sweet. You had a little strawberry and rose. There's more citrus in that, so it's masking the alcohol a bit more. And this year, the intention is to taste the tequila significantly more, so the preparation's different. Less citrus, and then over crushed ice. So we're not diluting it as much before it goes into crushed ice. Okay, so this is the Hotel Nacional with Roca Patron Reposado. So that is a Collins. Not to be confused with beer glasses. That is a real Collins. It's a little 12-ounce Collins. Tequila's in the Collins. The rosé is in the copper. It's going to be a toggle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's currently on the Basil Hayden button. Basil Hayden has bourbon and rye. So that's going to be the same function for the Hotel Nacional button. And what do you guys think of the rosé? Yeah. I mean, let's see. Who drinks whiskey? You drink whiskey and you still like it? You drink whiskey and you still like it? And then I think also too, I know it's a little weird for everyone to take sips, but it's super frothy. So it's like creamy. Wow, that is good. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so tart, tropical, refreshing. Hotel Nacional is the old dry rum cocktail. But the key here is apricot with the pit fruit for summer. So in the Roca Reposado, so the reason this one is unique, Roca means rock, obviously. They're using an old maceration style for agave called a tojona. So instead of taking a big pneumatic press and squeezing these piñas, things that look like pineapples, they're just a root from the agave. Instead of pressing it down to get 99.9% yield for alcohol, they're using an old stone rock that only macerates about 60 to 70% of the juice. What I always compare that to is, would you bake an apple pie with the core, or would you only use the fruit? The core isn't really the fruit. It's more fibrous and more bitter. So if you're removing the juice from the core of the piña, the agave, you get a more sweet, interesting, higher sugar content, but lower yield. So the price goes up, but the quality goes up. So in this one, I think you taste peach, and you taste Fresno chili, and you taste red bell pepper, and a little bit of even strawberry. And that's because it is a reposado. So it's about 6 months in French oak. So they're using the best oak, the best maceration style, and it's the high-end category for Patron. It's the highest end category.
So it'd be like East End grapes for this.
Exactly. Yeah. French oak or unfiltered. You know what I mean? Especially unfiltered. You're tasting agave, and so this one is being short shaking. We're short shaking. That just means we're not adding an abundance of water so that you can taste the tequila, and then we're putting it over crushed ice, garnishing with a little pineapple spear, and Peychaud's bitters. So Peychaud's bitters, again, always adds color and scent. anise, rhubarb especially, but the pink on yellow is really cool. You know, and this appeals to both sexes, I think, and this appeals to multiple age groups. It's a classy little cocktail glass. Yeah. Mm. Cool. Yeah, so a little more spicy. Yeah, any questions on the second one? Ben, what's the name of that glassware? And what's the name of the first glassware? Copper. Cool. Eric, what's the bourbon we're using in the Smoke and Honey?
It is the Elijah Craig small batch.
Cool. Good thing we rounded back. Interesting note. So Elijah Craig small batch, right? That's our new well bourbon. We also have the Elijah Craig small batch barrel proof. So that means they're not adding water to it. So that's significantly more expensive, about twice as expensive for the guest. And that's 131 proof. This is 91 proof. So when marketing and talking to the guests, if they enjoyed the small batch in an old fashioned, or they want to know what the whiskey is, or they enjoyed the Smoke and Honey for twice the price, and we do it all day, every day, I think it's the best bourbon old fashioned you can make. Regardless of price, you can use a $100 bourbon, and this is still a better old fashioned. The Elijah Craig small batch barrel proof. Yes. And so it's $26.50 for an old fashioned, $27 it'll be when we're upping the prices on the modifiers a little bit. People order 3. They're that delicious. And so for the hardcore enthusiasts, it's more supreme and premium product to like Booker's, which is the standard overproof bourbon, a little more refined. And so this will give you a segue into selling that $27 old fashioned much more often. And I'm telling you, I sell 60 to 70% of my bourbon old fashions are Elijah Craig barrel proof.
Can you offer that as like a addition to the Smoke and Honey?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, hell yeah. Please. Yeah. If you hit old fashioned with Elijah Craig barrel proof, make it $28, we'll give them a Smoke and Honey all day.
Is there like any kind of simple terms you could tell us like about selling that?
Yeah, so the reason I love it in an old fashioned, so an old fashioned should be bourbon and a Manhattan should be rye if you're a stickler and you believe in like the rules. But there's flavor reasons. So bourbon has more inherent sugar and vanilla, so it's sweeter. Rye has more spice, so it's more dry. So if you add vermouth, which is basically wine, to something sweet, you get a really sweet cocktail. If you add vermouth to something dry like rye, you get a really balanced cocktail. Now, Americans like buttery wine and fruity wine, so it's relative. But the reason I like Elijah Craig barrel proof, I don't like old fashions, I like straight spirits. Elijah Craig barrel proof, since it's higher alcohol content and has a really unique texture, balances the water that you add, the bitters that you add, and the sugar that you add in an old fashioned. What time is it, Chris? Cool. So yeah, you're adding, in an old fashioned, you want to taste the spirit. That's the whole point. You want to lengthen it. You want to make it a little more palatable so you can sip it and enjoy it without burning your palate, without it being too intense. And that's what an old fashioned is. That's why we don't muddle cherries or we don't muddle oranges. If you're paying $28 for a whiskey, you better be able to taste it. And if you pay $10 and the $10 for the next one and it tastes exactly the same, we've made a mistake. You know, you don't want a ribeye, a prime ribeye, to taste like a choice skirt steak. And if you create the right process, you can absolutely taste the whiskey and get the essence of the whiskey. Yeah, so Elijah Craig barrel proof Smoke and Honey would be a great idea. Next cocktail.
Victoria's on the phone.
May I? Thank you. Thank you. No worries. Luxardo. How you looking? I got you. I got your other cocktail prep there. All right, next cocktail. Violet Femme. So kind of lame, honestly, that I'm borrowing the name from a current cocktail. But that cocktail didn't do that well, didn't sell that well for some reason. I thought the name would attract people, but this is a champagne cocktail, so this is going to be dual use. So this is going to be used during brunch quite a bit. Violet Femme. So glassware here is stemless flute. You know, colloquialism, we say, what do you need?
I have Victoria's.
Okay. So we say champagne, we mean California sparkling wine. We're fibbing a tiny bit, but people call California sparkling wine champagne constantly. So in this we have Nolet's gin. So Peach, rose, and raspberry are the main botanicals in this gin. Peach, rose, raspberry. So if you think we're making a summer cocktail menu, I think it's pretty self-explanatory why we used a peach, rose, and raspberry gin. The other favorite gin that we crush here is cucumber and rose, which is Hendrick's. Obviously lends itself well to cocktails, summery cocktails, patio cocktails. This is no exception. And then creme de violet. So creme de violet's super expensive, but it's amazing and it gives it that beautiful hue. So it's hand-picked violets from the French Alps. And they're just steeped in something called beet sugar, which is alcohol made from beets, not important. But literally hand-picked French Alps violets. And that's why this cocktail is a little expensive at 15, but the gin is super premium as well. So it's called the silver gin because it's not a London Dry, it's not a Plymouth, it's not an Old Tom. It's not these, it doesn't adhere to any of the other categories of gin. It's a New World gin. So if people are worried that they're gonna taste the gin, they don't need to be worried because rose is the predominant thing they're gonna taste when it's all said and done from the gin. And then of course, gin finishes dry, so it's just balancing our sugar. And that's one thing I can't emphasize enough. If you start reinforcing that the reason we use gin, the reason we use mezcal, so on and so forth, is to balance sweet ingredients, and then you get a nice arc, just like any good dish. Food is culinary, as is alcohol, and we want balance. We don't want overly fat, overly lean, and gin is in this cocktail for that reason. Yeah. What's the question? So creme de violet. So the reason it's called a creme is because it has high residual sugar and low alcohol content. So that's a category in France that some Americans like to use. But in France, there are rules to make a creme. You can't just call your product a creme unless it meets certain criteria. So it's going to have a little rosemary garnish on top and then a Luxardo cherry at the bottom. So creme is literally just a liqueur, but it's a fancy liqueur with more rules and a higher scrutiny to quality and consistency.
That's not the garnishes though, just across it like that. The garnish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's gonna hit the table a lot, but it's gonna come out looking cute, and it will leave a little residual scent on there. Springy, floral, and this cocktail's floral and bright, and I think that's the literal description. What's the literal description here?
Floral, bright, toasty.
Yeah, toasty, floral, bright. So, I mean, these are the words I would literally say tableside. You guys are free to use them or you're free to elaborate. Just kind of keep those words in mind. This is a combination of two of my favorite cocktails, a Aviation and a French 75. So you guys remember the Aviation probably from the cocktail menu prior. So champagne cocktails, like for $15, it's got a lot of volume in there. The violet's a really unique flavor, and the gin is interesting, and this one should crush it, and it is one of those cocktails that begs the question. Another thing we're trying to do is every time someone sees a cocktail, they're eating with their eyes. They all should have unique plating and unique garnishes and kind of captivate your eyes before you order them so you're excited for when they do hit the table. Okay. What you get? Beautiful, thank you.
Having their best interest in, whether it's
All right. Pretty. What do you guys think of the sweetness level, considering that it has so much violet? Yeah, it's still. Would you say it's balanced? Oh, right. And that's the point. There's no such thing as a guy that only drinks whiskey, a guy that only eats ribeye. No, you'll love short rib too. You know what I mean? Or you'll love a really well prepared skirt steak. So, and that's the key. Hopefully, you guys are confident in the fact that these cocktails are balanced and they transcend gender, generation, whatever, culture. All right, Jack Tack. Good. Garden Party. Malia, can you read the ingredients and the description for the Garden Party?
Absolute mix, rosé, cordial. Yeah, we don't have it. Not in this one.
Off menu's fine.
Rose cordial, Bianco vermouth, rhubarb bitters, garden ice.
Cool. So
Spring white old fashioned.
yeah, so stirred spring white old fashioned. So a couple important things in the description. Stirred. So this has no citrus in it. We're denoting that because this, although it's a really good, fun floral cocktail, it's not quote unquote refreshing. It doesn't have lime or lemon juice or orange juice or grapefruit juice to make it lengthened. The only lengthener is the water. So when we say lengthener, if I give you foie gras fried, it's going to be really abrasive. If I make it a torchon, it's a little more gentle. And that's the kind of idea that you want to apply when using citrus versus no citrus. If I make you a bourbon margarita versus a bourbon stirred, it's going to be extremely different in how it attaches itself to your mouth. So a stirred cocktail, an old fashioned, a Manhattan, a Vieux Carré, smoke and honey, so on and so forth. A little smaller group of people that enjoy stirred, but that's probably because they haven't been exposed to the right ones. So Garden Party, as you would imagine, has some vegetal qualities. So we're doing a Bianco vermouth is important because it's a salty style of vermouth. It has some muscadel in there, which is the grape. So it's a salty vermouth. I like it because you can add a savory component without adding additional components. So in this vermouth, we're steeping and macerating red bell pepper and grapefruit. So the grapefruit is everything, skin on, fruit in, pith in, and the grapefruit is just the fruit. So it's slightly spicy and slightly tropical. And then the rose cordial, again, is a rose steeped in beet sugar. So it's hand-picked roses. It's really pretty and it makes it pink. We're garnishing with a little piece of cilantro. Lori used a sphere, but we're gonna switch to a cube so that it'll sit. Grapefruit, yeah, is steeped in the vermouth.
Oh, okay, so that's where the citrus comes.
Are we making the
Yeah,
vermouth in
acidity. We are.
Okay.
So, couple important things on the what and the why. Absolut Elix. So Absolut Elix is made in Sweden. It's my favorite vodka. It's the vodka I really stand behind for quality and flavor. It's winter wheat. So our current favorite, Grey Goose, is also winter wheat. So a little dry. What do you think?
Do you have a special name for this glass?
Yeah, so that's a beveled, it's a beveled Rydell. So we would call it a Rydell behind the bar. A beveled rocks glass is probably what we should call it generally, but either one is fine. Beveled rocks and Rydell. So Rydell's a brand, but that's the only Rydell we have behind the bar. What do you guys think? Kind of weird?
very weird.
Yeah. So Garden Ice, we're pureeing cilantro and bell pepper so that as it dilutes, it'll continue to add flavor to the cocktail.
Or in the ice?
In the ice.
No wonder you don't like it.
Well, no, it's not.
It's not in this ice. though.
Oh, it's not. But there's bell pepper and grapefruit in the vermouth. Who drinks straight up martinis? What do you think?
Oh, that's done.
This is the one I gave you the other day, actually. Yeah. So, white old fashioned, right? White old fashioned. So we're giving this category a shot because I don't really like making vodka cocktails, but let's see what happens. It is a weird one. It's different. But for our Tito's and grapefruit drinkers or Tito's and soda with a lemon peel, I want them to step out a little. Yeah. I mean, vodka is not generally a base spirit because in a stirred cocktail, because it doesn't have flavor. So we're trying to put some flavor into this.
Wait, so why the term white old-fashioned?
White old fashioned. So white old fashioned will help people understand that it's stirred. And it's not sweet.
It's not like a mixed cocktail.
Yeah, it's not a daiquiri, it's not a Collins. Yeah. Yeah, the description is white old fashioned. Let's do notes on the menu since menu's most updated. White old fashioned is the category and Garden Party is the name of the cocktail. Yeah. And then rhubarb comes from Peychaud's. We just were saying something slightly different to notate it. What you got? Thank you. Panda and Sons.
You grab a picture here. That tablecloth is not doing justice on the photos.
Cool.
What else do we need from you guys? Anything? What do we get? What do you want to do with these, bud?
Did you got to use that for the sumac?
I'm here now.
Cool.
Is this the simple syrup?
Yeah, so half. That's the sumac and the sumac
sugar?
and the sugar. No, another half of sugar.
Stuff in here.
Huh?
Why does it look so much different than the stuff in here?
Because I made it right this time. I had time. It's a simple syrup now. So that's the sumac and the salt. So half ounce of that red syrup. All right. Any general questions before we move on? Cass, what's important about if I like lemon drops? What's important about the Garden Party? What kind of distinguishes it, especially from like a lemon drop?
I don't know, I don't see why.
Okay, if I like lemon drops, would you offer me the Garden Party?
No.
Okay, and what's the big difference
Citrus
maker?
versus- okay.
Correct, right.
I thought you were comparing it, I was like, what?
No, and right. And to start to think in those categories, citrusy and refreshing, stirred and spirit forward. Usually applies to brown spirits, but on that note, we can start making rum old fashions, we can start making old fashions, cognac old fashions, start thinking outside of the box a little bit.
People had a gin one the other day.
Gin old fashions are amazing. I love them. That's a little weird for most people. Okay, next cocktail, Panda and Sons. Leah, can you read the ingredients and then the descriptors?
So it's a brown butter, Nika, pure malt, black peppercorn infused rye whiskey, allspice bitters, pecans. It's going to be described as silky, nutty, and tobacco.
Dope. Okay, cool. So, wow, this is good. $20. So, yeah, let's start with the price. Okay, so again, beveled Rydell, and this is garnished with a bay leaf. So, Nika, N-I-K-K-A, Nika is a Japanese whiskey. It's a pure malt, which means it's only barley, but it's not a single malt. So it's 3 different barleys. Not super important, that part. What's important is that you understand that a pure malt means if they could legally call it Scotch, they would. But they cannot. They're not from Scotland. So if they could legally call it Scotch, they would. If they put Scotch on their bottle today, they would be in court tomorrow. So Scottish governing bodies and a lot of lawyers. A lot of lawyers. The word Scotch makes a lot of money. So, okay, so Panda and Sons is a bar in Scotland I went to. It's a speakeasy with an emphasis on Japanese whiskey. So that's why I named it that. Japanese whiskey, Scottish. So the same brown butter, pecans, and walnuts that we use for the sticky toffee is what we're washing this with. So it's literally steeped in alcohol for about 24 to 36 hours. What you get is the nuttiness, the creaminess of the butter. You leave in some texture of the butter, and it acts as a sweetener. It changes the Scotch completely, Scotch, loose term. And then black peppercorn infused rye whiskey to bring back the fat. So fat to dry. And that's how you create an arc in a cocktail.
That whiskey is Japanese or no?
Japanese. Yeah, so the reason it's $20 is because if you order a shot of Nika Takashiro right now and all I do is pour it into the glass, that's $23. So we're giving a lot to the guests in the interest of getting them to step out and start drinking $20 cocktails. So if people say $20 for a cocktail, I mean, you can tastefully say the whiskey itself is $23. We want you to taste a really unique application of a whiskey. No other bars, very few bars have the luxury of using these kinds of spirits in cocktails. Our guests drink Mount Brave and Newton all day, Newton especially, right? And so we have the luxury of creating a premium really high-end Japanese whiskey cocktail. So some bars can't even get this whiskey in the first place. We get it every single week. And so it's the counterpart to the Smokin' Honey. It's less sweet, it's more complex, and the bitters is Chinese 5-spice, but we said allspice because we didn't want to confuse anybody. So it's got this like little tingy burn. The black peppercorn finishes super dry, and so it should be one where like you go back for every sip like spicy food. You continue to want to put it in your mouth.
Spices from the peppercorn?
Spices from the black peppercorn infused rye, and the Takashiru has a little peat and a little tobacco going on naturally. So it's a slightly smoky Japanese whiskey. Yeah, so a pure malt. Chris, what's the one ingredient in it? What's the one distillate? If bourbon is corn and rye is rye, what is a malt? Barley, right? So we use the term malt, but what they mean is barley. So a pure malt. So if guys like Scotch, they like malted barley.
It tastes so like a nut.
Totally. Yeah. So it's a little out of season, but I wanted to do something fun with Japanese whiskey, and we all know how much the Smokin' Honey sells. We sell like 13 a day or 13 a shift on average, something crazy like that. So if you can get them to go into another stirred cocktail, which has some sweet characteristics like the Smokin' Honey, while offering them a really unique product. Nobody even, what restaurant even has brown butter, pecans, and walnuts to use in a stirred cocktail in the first place? And that's the point. Get these people coming back for, their favorite appetizer. Duck tacos, perfect example. I have people on the streets that find out I work at Orange Hill and they say duck tacos. I'm like, that's dope. That's cool. We need cocktails like that.
Just like the nuts.
Huh?
Like when I straw tasted it, it was like left on the straw, like the nuts.
Yeah. We're gonna find sieve it again.
Can you
Yeah.
tell us the preparation one more time?
Yeah. So
How do you make it?
So chef makes a brown butter, right? So brown butter means you're just reducing butter, essentially caramelizing butter to get this nice savory richness. Then they're putting pecans and walnuts in there. So you have a little amalgamation of like savory, nutty, rich. And so then I take those walnuts, put them in the alcohol for 24 to 36 hours.
And that's the pure malt.
That's the pure malt. So if we're effectively infusing, but what the term is called, it's called fat washing. So you use a little temperature, you put it in the fridge, the fat separates, and that's what I didn't have time to do, but the fat separates, so you don't have any residual in the particles, but you have texture. So fat, literally butter, sticking to the sides of your mouth, being washed away by the peppercorns and the alcohol and the bitters. So fat washing. Huge nut allergy, obviously.
What's the rye we're using?
The rye we're using, it's called Rittenhouse. It's currently our well, and it's 100 proof, and that's why we like it, because it's not amazing on its own. I would shoot it maybe if I was bored, but it's a hammer. The same way like putting cayenne on a dish is gonna drastically change it. This rye is a hammer, and so we only use a half ounce, and it really takes the spiciness out of the peppercorns.
That's stirred, you said, right?
And that is a stirred cocktail.
Did we switch this up to lemon or is it still
Lemon.
lemon?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Three times, sours and lemon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lime recipe.
Yeah. It says lime on here after the.
Must have missed that, sorry.
Can you start on the next one?
Martini menu?
Yeah. What are we doing? Short shake? Short shake, reverse dry shake?
You want it out right as it says or what?
Let's go.
This one on the notes, it says to shake and then dry shake. Big cube.
Yeah. So, dude, yeah. What do you guys think? How's the Panda and Sons?
I like that one. That one's good.
Feel comfortable at the price point?
It's like, oh yeah, that would be vegan, so.
Cool. right, so
Is this tahini on this?
no, it's kind of Lebanese tahine. So Samsonite sour. Al, Samsonite sour. Can you read the?
Jameson Caskmates, IPA, sumac, creme de banana, salted simple syrup, lime, pineapple.
Okay, so this is a really weird one, obviously, and
You didn't say weird.
I just made my syrup. So what? Grassy, tropical, and I'm sorry,
Mediterranean.
Mediterranean. So sumac, basically Lebanese tahine. Yeah, it's kind of spicy, has some like saffron stuff going on, high minerality, really fun. So it will give it this really unique color. The texture is a little funny right now because we didn't have time to sieve our simple syrup, but you'll get the gist of it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Anyhow, so Aloe Govna is going away. So we're keeping Jameson IPA. This is not Angel City IPA. This is a San Diego Jameson IPA, but it's multiple breweries that they're using. So that other product's going away forever, and that's why we had to switch. So this has sea salt in it and sumac in a simple syrup, whipped pineapple juice, so it'll have a frothy texture, and Jameson IPA Caskmates, so it's grassy, it's tropical, it's green, it's got melon, it's got hops, and thank you. And yeah, it's very, very funky.
So the sumac's in the simple syrup and
No, sumac's in the simple syrup
yeah,
only.
only. Okay.
We were gonna put it in Jameson, but we didn't want to infuse.
That's not what it's garnished with as well.
It's garnished with togarashi. So
okay.
yeah.
Japanese.
What is togarashi? Okay, what's a really important spice in the togarashi? Dietary restrictions.
Fish something.
Bonito. Yeah, so bonito flakes, so fish. So it's a non-vegan garnish, so we took it out of the whiskey. It was going to be in the whiskey originally, so it's a garnish only now. So yeah, hopefully we know people are vegan before.
Before they order a cocktail? I don't know.
Yes,
That's gonna be awkward.
yeah, right. So the color was different, but I'm literally just sieving the simple syrup now.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I mean Irish whiskey, refreshing,
Oh, I have white pants on.
super weird. The creme de banana. So banana and butterscotch. So Jameson and or Irish whiskey always has butterscotch going on, and so banana and butterscotch classic. Yeah.
Considering I'm allergic to bananas.
What do you think?
It's fine. It's like make my mouth itch a little. Not bad.
That's what avocado does.
Not bad, she
I don't have
says.
bananas, though.
Gives me like
You know I
a
don't
tingly
drink
feeling in the
whiskey.
mouth.
You know I don't drink whiskey out, so. Considering it's a whiskey drink, I'm like, yeah, I drink that.
Yeah.
We're garnishing with black sesame.
With togarashi. Yeah, so it'll be more frothy.
Yeah, I like the salty. I like the salty.
Yeah, there's seeds in the togarashi.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so I think I'm gonna reduce the syrup a little to change the color.
It's taking on
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Salty and spices down.
Yeah. Super savory. Yeah. They just they made lime instead of lemon, so I just made that like in 10 seconds. Got Cole making drinks. You know what I mean?
Shitty paradox. What?
I heard my name.
That's very, really good. Different.
You like it? Yeah.
So this one was like your favorite?
The syrup just settled like 2 hours ago, so it'll be slightly less. It'll be slightly less grainy. Grainy. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Martini menu. Jay, do we have a martini menu?
We do not.
No. Yes. What? Okay. Okay. Martini menu, guys. Gonna get Malia. Martini menu. So this will probably be the bestseller, either this or the Hotel National. So it's dumb. It's exactly what the name suggests. It's silly. It's not crafty. It's not something a guy with the twirly mustache makes in a dark bar in Santa Ana. So for the people that love that dumb, what was that called? Oh Crush? Yeah, orange, and pineapple. Terrible cocktail.
It's like a pixie stick.
Woo!
It was like a pixie.
Terrible. No food will taste good after that. We made them an orange cocktail, and what I feel is a really good, tasteful, fun orange cocktail. So creme de violette, orange curacao. Curacao just means triple sec, but more fine, and it's full proof. So vanilla brandy, which is the liquor 43. Creme de violette, which is the violet you already had today in another cocktail. And orange curacao, in this case, Cointreau as the base. So, yeah, unaged orange brandy. Yeah, and again, don't say the word brandy tableside, but I want you guys to understand it's made from 100% Valencia oranges. And the garnish is going to be really simple. I want you guys getting these drinks out quickly, so we're going to make these garnishes much more simple for you. Luxardo cherry to float at the bottom for a little contrast, and we're expressing an orange peel and discarding the orange peel. So we want the orange scent, but no need for an orange peel on the rim.
Just use one of the ones from the honeys.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wait, we're going to do that.
Yeah. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. Lime juice in addition, tart, refreshing, a little contrast going on. Vanilla is like Orange County's favorite flavor. And orange is probably close second.
It is like an orange creamsicle.
It's like a creamsicle.
Oh, yeah.
Wait till you smell really good.
Martini glass, Luxardo cherry. Mauricio, tell me about the Luxardo cherries. Mauricio, tell me about Luxardo cherries. Mauricio, what do you know about Luxardos? Okay, so we have Luxardo brandy, right? So that goes in our pink toga. So those cherries make the brandy. Then they take the original cherries, they're called marascas, and steep them in the brandy. So what you get is a fortified cherry, which just means it's been steeped in alcohol and the sugar starts to act different because it's been fortified, like a port, like a sherry. So you get these sweet caramely flavors. So those cherries are really amazing and taste like cold port, basically. And that's how they sustain the color. That's how they can last forever. They're steeped for 6 to 9 months in alcohol. So kids can't have them, but we don't want kids to have them because they're 28 cents a cherry. If they're really bougie kids, sell them some cherries.
No
No coconuts. Yeah, it's okay. Let's skip.
Small touch.
No. Thank you. Okay, and coming right behind is the PD Paradox. So this one's coming kind of quick, but these two are pretty self-explanatory, I feel. So the martini menu, again, the reason it's named such is because there's no such thing as a martini menu. There's only one martini. It's gin, dry vermouth, and orange bitters stirred. That's a martini. So saying, do you have different prime ribs? No, we have a roasted prime rib. Well, do you have a filet mignon prime rib? That's essentially what someone's saying when they ask for a different type of martini. Colloquialism has accepted anything in this type of glass as a martini. But what I find is people who ask for a martini menu are looking for a fruity, approachable, fun, light, refreshing cocktail, like our martini menu. So we're laughing at them, but giving them exactly what they want. Exactly what they want. Thank you. Yeah. The one you're tasting right now is the stirred cocktail, the PD Paradox. Yeah, so can you tell me anything about peaty, what the word peaty means, sir? No? Smoky? Okay, yeah. So peated means a peat. Peat is something that is a moss in Scotland. It's basically compressed mushrooms over hundreds of years. It's vegetation that's been compressed down. So it looks like a log, feels like rubber, smells like mushroom. You burn it, you get smolder, thick black smoke. They impart that into the barley, which makes the whiskey. Now you have smoky whiskey. So it is a method of smoking, but the earthiness of the peat specifically creates a unique profile.
How much is smoking down with this one?
Parts per million? 55 parts per million. So phenolic parts per million. So phenols taste like banana, barnyard smoke, clove, all the things in like an old funky Hefeweizen. Those are phenolics. So that's a stirred cocktail. Again, the base cocktail is called the Rusty Nail, which is honey heather scotch. So as you would imagine, the second ingredient is called Drambuie. So Drambuie is honey heather scotch. So it's scotch that has had this flour put into it that has honey flavors and leather flavors. So honey heather. Honey and leather. Yeah. If it is a rusty nail, but it's a smoky rusty nail.
So the base on that isn't the Ardbeg?
The base is the Ardbeg Ugadal.
Oh, that is.
The modifier is the Drambuie.
And can you explain the Ardbeg one more time?
Ardbeg. So Ardbeg is an Isla, right? Isla, one of my favorite words. So an island off the coast of Scotland that produces the smokiest whiskeys in the world. No other region is prohibited from producing smoky whiskeys, but it's the culture of Isla to produce the best smoky whiskeys, Ardbeg being one of them. Ardbeg's known as the campfire or the peat monster because it's big and aggressive and gnarly, and it's contrasted by the sweet honey flavors going on in this. And then we do orange bitters and orange peel to dry out the whole cocktail. This Ugadal is rested in cherry barrels. So think smoke and dates, smoke and chocolate. And that's basically what you get. You get smoke and custard in a really creamy cocktail. Yeah, it's wonderful. This is the Indian summer.
That's right. I was like, wait,
So jalapeno custard. So since there's so much green going on in the island, so Isla has a lot of seawater runoff. So you get flavors like iodine, aka salt, and seaweed. So when you add seaweed to sherry, decadent creamy, you get what I call jalapeno creme brulee. So if you've ever had a jalapeno quince or like we have that, the spicy apricot quince. That's the idea. Spicy, savory, creamy, rich. No, it's just a descriptor. Totally. Bell peppers are common in Ardbeg, but there's campfire too. There's sandalwood, but in this one, since it's creamy, you get as if you made like a jalapeno ice cream or a jalapeno custard. This one is Indian summer. One brief thing on the what's the price on the PD Paradox? 22. So again, Ardbeg Ugadal, a shot on its own, if I just pour it in the glass, is 24. So, we're incentivizing these. Now we get slightly better prices for putting them in the menu, blah, 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 whatever. But the price is less expensive than a smaller portion with the same whiskey. We want people to step out of their comfort zone a little. Which one? Indian Summer, yeah. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, Ugadal. Isla, sherry barrel aged. Unfiltered, barrel proof. It's got all the fun words that spell expensive and delicious. Coast of Island, so Lagavulin, Laphroaig, Ardbeg, Bowmore, Coila. Those are 5 of the majors. Those are all from the same island off the coast of Scotland, and you guys already see how many people pay a lot of money for Isla.
what is this one?
This is the Indian Summer. So Indian Summer, it's a Doors song. It's a spirit called Sotol, which is a style of mezcal. Okay, so this is really important. So yes. So this is really important. So mezcal, right? Not all whiskeys are bourbon, but all bourbons are whiskey, correct? Right. Scotch, ditto. Rye, ditto. Mezcal, greater umbrella, from Mexico only, has to be made from agave. Tequila is made from one of 200 species of agave. So that's the most commonly known mezcal, but it's more fine than mezcal. So like Maker's Mark doesn't call themselves whiskey so much as they call themselves bourbon. In Mexico, tequilas do not call themselves mezcal, even though they are literally mezcals, but of one style of mezcal. So Sotol is the only exception. It's not made from the same succulent, which is agave, aka cactus. It's made from a shrub. So think shrub versus cactus, and think how much water content there is in a cactus versus how much there is in a shrub. So this is a dry, arid plant. So as you would imagine, it's nutty. There's sandalwood going on. It's green. It's not tropical. It's the way I say it tastes the way the desert smells. So desert fruit. So it has additional tropical fruit in there. Tamarind. Tamarindo, yeah, salty, savory. Tamarind. So it's this green, dry, white peppery spirit called Sotol that is from Chihuahua only, the state of Chihuahua in Mexico, from an evergreen shrub that is technically a mezcal. So it's not as smoke-driven as mezcal, right? Because this base spirit is less sugary. Yeah, so they call mezcals piñas because it looks like a pineapple and it has that much sugar. And that's why they use it. It has a lot of sugar. This doesn't have a lot of sugar. So it's
more to ferment it to make it into alcohol?
yes. Yeah, so it is expensive. Tamarind. Masala. So masala is an Indian term. The same way Mexicans would say salsa, Indians say masala. Masala just means spices. So in this case, our spices from our brandy are cilantro, basil, turmeric, and jalapeno. But specifically cilantro and basil. And it's funky and delicious. And then tamarind binds it all together. Tamarind's a sweet, sticky, icky.
Literally.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a tamarind syrup. Yeah, we buy tamarind syrup. Little sea salt on there as a garnish. A little green expressed basil leaf to kind of bring out some more of the masala. Indian summer is kind of saying Indian Native American, Indian, India, and then summary. Yeah. What else? Where we at?
I don't know.
Indian summer.
Sunshine, herbs, and salt.
Yeah, and then falernum again, guys. Falernum. Falernum is always the same ingredient. It's ginger, lime, and almond as a simple syrup. So falernum syrup, ginger, lime, and almond. Okay, next one. You guys are gonna love this one. We left something refreshing for the end.
Ginger, lime, and what?
Ginger, lime, and almond. So those are steeped. So the sugar source is the almond, and then they steep ginger and lime. And it's from Jamaica mostly, and they create what is called falernum. So anytime you have falernum, there's a nut, and there's lime, and there's ginger. So now we're tasting the. Go reference the menu, please, since the menu's most updated.
Cranberry tea, Martell Blue Swift cognac, raspberry gum, lime.
Falernum. Yes. So this is a large snifter. So as you've seen, a lot of our IPAs are coming in this. We wanted to make it dual use. So we have a cognac punch. This is a cognac punch. So if you guys hear that term thrown around a lot, a punch.
What's it called? Is it Sunshine Blues?
Correct. The glassware is a large snifter. So a punch, right? Americans came to the colonies, they got slaves, they got tobacco, and they got sugar, and they made rum. So they used things that were local to make punches. The founding fathers loved punches, so only 5 ingredients can go in. Strong, weak, sour, sweet, and spice. Strong being alcohol, weak being water, sweet being fruit, sour being citrus, and spice being either tea or literal spices. Mostly tea in the New World. So these predate, cognac is a really interesting one because that's what rich people would use to make punches. Normal workers in the New World would use shitty rum, probably Jamaican. So what we have as our tea is apple cinnamon tea. We're literally brewing our apple cinnamon tea bags and using it as a lengthener.
Apple cranberry, apple cinnamon,
It's apple cinnamon tea, but there's cranberry notes in the cognac, so we described it as apple cranberry.
So you're using that
Apple cinnamon. And then it gives it that beautiful color. And then the cognac's really unique. So this is cognac. So cognac is a brandy. Brandy is not cognac, right? Cognac is made from grapes from one region in France. And it's aged in French oak, Limousin oak. So you get this like spicy red fruit, potpourri quality, and sometimes darker, richer flavors depending on how long it's aged. This is then aged in bourbon barrels. So it's a sweeter, more cocktail-friendly style of cognac, which also makes it a little less expensive so we can use it. It's not, so Martell Blue Swift. So Sunshine Blues, kind of a little ode to the whiskey, the cognac. Bourbon barrel aged. So bourbon's always going to give vanilla, honey, coconut. white fruit, and oak, of course. So yeah.
So are you infusing the tea with the cognac?
No, we're literally using tea in the cocktail, yeah. So you'll see that we dry whip the cocktail and then pour it over crushed ice because we've already added controlled water with the tea. So we're heating tea, letting it cool, and then adding it into a cocktail so that we know exactly how much water goes in. Crushed ice, large snifter, little cinnamon stick and mint garnish, and it is a punch. So be happy and use that terminology. It's a punch. It has all 5.
Is it just a standard quart
Standard.
of alcohol?
It's a 2-ounce portion, so slightly bigger than like what we would do for like a neat. Yeah. Any questions on that one, guys? I think that one's gonna sell wonderfully. Bourbon barrel aged cognac's a big selling point. Martell Blue Swift's a little.
Raspberry.
Gom. So raspberry gum. It's a style of syrup. Gum, we use gum arabic to add to raspberry fruit. So it's partially a stabilizer. We don't like using the word preservative. It stabilizes it, but it also creates a different mouthfeel. So if you guys get that full mouthfeel from the fruit, it's because it touches all parts of your mouth, kind of latches onto moisture. So it acts like tartness, but then goes to sweet as the fruit from the cognac come in and the raspberry gum come in. Try it. Why not? You have to try it. This is the chocolate martini. So if you cut a few pages in your menu, you'll see the new dessert pages in the menu. Which one? Yeah, it's going to be a pinch of cocoa nibs. Yeah, after dinner drinks. Bingo. So the printing will have the others. So sweet endings will be right after dessert wine, and then the official print is going to have basically the back of the dessert menu in there as well right now, as it stands right now. So white, quote unquote, chocolate martini. So creme de cacao, so it's just liquor made out of cacao, which you make chocolate with. It's not a milk chocolate. It's a full-on cacao. So it's really, it's not sweet, it's not bitter, but it's definitely in between. Vanilla cordial, which is liquor 43, so vanilla and spices. Really high viscosity, super creamy. Heavy cream, and Mexican chocolate. So Mexican chocolate is Aztec chocolate bitters, and I describe it as champurrado or mole, somewhere in between. So those dark nutty spices, cinnamon, cloves, and it's bitter chocolate, but it's only the bitters, and it's only to bring back the vanilla. Tastes like rum chata. Quote unquote white. It's white in color, but it's kind of a biting my thumb a little at white people. So yeah, dessert drink should kill it. We've been running this one for like 2 months as our standard recipe on chocolate martinis, and I feel like we've got really good feedback. Creme de cacao is what we use in the Brooklyn Bond, so that nice full flavored chocolate. And start thinking in ranges. It's not milk chocolate, it's not dark chocolate, it's a creme, so it's somewhere in between. Cacao. Cacao like the nut, you get cacao nuts. No vodka. Mm-hmm. No vodka. The base is a creme de cacao, yeah. Cool. General questions? Favorites? Ones you wouldn't? Anyone feel uncomfortable about recommending any of these? But see, and I don't drink vodka martinis, but how many people in our restaurant drink vodka martinis? Yeah, and dirty martini, a savory martini. And we're lucky, a lot of us drink a little more interesting than vodka shaken. That's kind of why I made this. It's because at the top of our P-mix for sales are vodka martinis in dollars. Not in frequency, but in dollars for sure. So if we can get them into something fun and unique, we'll give it a go. If it doesn't work, we'll take it off. Yeah.
Are all of the bottles and cans
They're in house, but we're not rolling till Tuesday. Yeah, yeah. Any questions? Any questions? I mean, obviously, we'll be continuing to coach you guys and pre-shifting. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're really making an effort to make the garnishes cool and useful while also being fast and efficient. I don't want you guys standing up there for 5 minutes while the drinks dilute just because cocktails, I mean, the prickly pear is admittedly annoying. So I may think of something more. Maybe we'll just prep those because I know it takes too long, especially when you're slammed and you've had too much caffeine. Yeah. So really start thinking about the expensive cocktails, guys. The stirred category, smoking honeys and old fashions are best-selling cocktails. And these two lend themselves so well, and they're so unique. And this is about building check averages and giving people unique products. So if you can sell $22 cocktails, you're going to be selling 2 cocktails at a time. You know what I mean? And if somebody's driving and they can only have 2 cocktails, you better make them expensive and make them count because you're getting 20 to 25% of that, and they're going to leave really happy. And I do find that when people are only having 1 or 2 cocktails, we can push them into a higher price point because they want to treat themselves since they're being responsible. And yeah, so think of that third category. Smoking Honeys, Petey Paradoxes, and Panda and Sons. Yeah, say those hot words, you know. Brown butter infused Japanese whiskey, Isla Rusty Nail, Cognac Punch. That's how I would market them tableside. Quick, efficient. It's a Cognac Punch. It is a Cognac Punch. It is a Ugadal. It is a Isla Rusty Nail. Literally, it is. And you know, the more you say Japanese whiskey, the better. Because one guy gets excited about the cocktail, and then he wants to try Yamazaki 18, which is $87, and now you've made a friend. So, yeah. Cool.
For the drinks that we took off, if people come in and they want one,
We can execute 100% of them.
all of them. What about the passion? Do we still have the passion?
We can still do the passion. It would be slightly modified. And then the cayenne, I may be out of the passion fruit syrup in a few weeks. I'll probably keep a little on hand because we have some regulars that exclusively drink the Venice Queen. So yeah, cool. Thank you guys. Thank you.